This week on The Destination Angler.
There's a ton of hiking trails. There's over 50 high alpine lakes up there. There's probably 100 different pieces of water just in that 73,000 acres that's been protected as wilderness area.
That was Erin Crider on the Indian Peaks Wilderness Area. Welcome to the Destination Angler Podcast, the podcast for anglers who travel. And I'm your host, Steve Haigh. We go right to the source, the local guides and experts, to build your knowledge of top fishing locations around North America. It's a big world out there. Now go and fish it.
I'm going away for a while, but I'll be back soon. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Hey anglers, welcome back to another episode of The Destination Angler, brought to you by Anglers Coffee, perfecting the coffee experience for the fly fishing community and anglers everywhere with small batch coffee delivered to your doorstep. It's darn near perfect. And by Trout Routes, the #1 fishing app helping you find new trout waters so you spend less time on the road and more time doing what you love, trout fishing. We've got some great shows coming your way, including Trophy Muskies on the Fly and the St. Croix River in Wisconsin. Then we head to the San Juan River tailwater in northern New Mexico, and then the Provo River in Utah. And be sure to backcast to catch the last episode of The Destination Angler on the Middle Fork of the Salmon River with Guy Robbins. Guy breaks down the Middle Fork and shares some great stories of rafting in the Himalayas, dynamite and log jams, scary moments on El Capitan, and thoughts on free climbers and famous recluses. You won't want to miss these shows. And remember to hit that subscribe button to catch all the Destination Angler episodes coming your way. And if you like the show, please tell a buddy. Special announcement for all you Colorado listeners. Come fish with me on private water on Friday, September 15th. I'll be hosting an angler to join me on one of Colorado's premier fisheries within an hour or two of Denver for a day of wade fishing. Visit my website for more information and a chance to enter to win. The winner will be announced on the August 24th episode. And today our destination is the Indian Peaks Wilderness Area in central Colorado. And my guest is Erin Crider, founder of Uncharted Outdoorswomen, Blackhawk, Colorado. Indian Peaks is a fly angler's wonderland and only about an hour's drive from Denver. Just south of Rocky Mountain National Park, Indian Peaks is every bit as beautiful with less cars, less people, and more wildlife. Here you'll find a roadless wilderness crisscrossed by over 100 miles of trails on or near the Continental Divide, with dozens of alpine lakes, many above tree line. A little bit about Erin. She spends about 150 days a year on the water, and lucky for us, Indian Peaks is her favorite place. As a former private wealth advisor out of New York City, she's made it her life's mission to break down barriers in the outdoors for women. She's proud of the fact that Uncharted Outdoorswomen empowers female guides to have a career in the outdoors, employing over 30 all-female hunting, fishing, and hiking guides in Colorado, Wyoming, Montana, and Oregon. Today, Erin dials us into this incredible place while sharing pro tips on scoping out lakes, avoiding moose, essential gear for the high country, and top confidence fly patterns. Stick around to the end to hear how her company is disrupting the guiding business, and I'll even go out on a limb and say Erin may just have cracked the code on how to bring many more women into the sport of fly fishing. This show was recorded back in June, so let's hear from Erin. Well, Erin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
Yeah, very excited to have you here and to talk about Indian Peaks Wilderness Area, which is kind of right in your backyard. I'm wondering how's your snowpack and how's the fishing been so far? Probably not a whole lot of it yet, huh?
Right. We have a lot of snow, which we're very fortunate to have. It has rained or hailed almost every day. We've had a very unseasonably cold spring, and our rivers were flowing just from the hail and the rain. And now runoff is starting. So there hasn't been a whole lot of fishing going on besides in the reservoirs and local ponds. But at 9,000 feet, I just got dandelions like 2 weeks ago. So the wildflowers are just about to start popping. I think Denver's like in the 90s. Up here at my house, we're getting into the 70s. So the high alpine colors are starting to come out.
Okay. And do you still have, mountain peaks that are still covered in snow, or is that pretty much all come down?
Yeah, definitely. We have a lot of snow still up there, and we hope that it melts a little bit slower than it has so far.
Right. Yeah. Well, at least hopefully you have a lot of water in the fall.
I hope so, because yeah, we definitely need it. That's when our watersheds really feel the heat. No pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So I was reading on your website that you are the only female waterfowl guide in the Rocky Mountains. Is that right?
I think so. I can't seem to find any other female waterfowl guides in the West. If there is another one out there, I'm hiring. And otherwise, I'm helping women get out and learn how to duck hunt in a safe space that I wish I would have had when I was learning, and it is extremely popular. So I'm trying to create more female waterfowl guides to spread the good word and the good experiences.
Yeah. Yeah. What else do you hunt?
Well, I try and hunt everything, but waterfowl is kind of what I'm dialed into. And I have no ego when it comes to hunting. So I actually harvested my first deer last year, a little doe. And
Okay.
my husband has been really excited about that. He does not hunt or fish. So
Huh.
when I come home and I actually bring home some meat hunting, that has been really cool. He
He
comes up
likes
with
that.
lots of different recipes and stuff. And I really love sharing the wild game with friends that don't hunt because it's just a different experience. And I've even shared wild game with vegetarians. So things are happening over here.
Yeah, man, it sounds like it. So this is what I'm trying to figure out. So you were a finance person in New York City of all places, and now you're in Colorado taking people duck hunting and doing all this fly fishing. How the heck did that happen?
Yeah, so right before COVID, I quit my career in finance, which ended in Manhattan. I was based here in Denver, and I love Denver. I just kind of started to realize that finance, like when you actually get up there into where you're making a lot of money, it's not where I wanted to be. And I couldn't handle the discrimination anymore. I was just over it. And I'm young, 36. So
Okay, all right.
I couldn't handle the discrimination anymore. And I wanted to empower women locally because my clientele were women of wealth and landowners. So I was already very in tune with my demographic, and I really enjoyed empowering them to learn about their financial situation since most women run the household money but don't invest, like they don't do any of the investing, which doesn't make any sense, but it wasn't a safe space for women to learn. So that was kind of my finance career. And then, yeah, I worked with a lot of landowners who were very connected to what's going on in the world. And they're very intelligent people. But New York City and Chicago and LA didn't really seem to agree that landowners were very smart. So left that industry and kind of did the same thing in the outdoor industry. What I found is there's not a safe space for women to recreate in the outdoors, and there is definitely not a safe space for them to be employed. So I have created that space called Uncharted Outdoorswomen, and you can check us out on unchartedoutdoorswomen.com. And then we've got a Facebook and Instagram as well, where you can see all of our events and meet other gals that want to recreate and find like-minded women to go outside and learn new things with. And my objective there is all about conservation. There's been many research studies done on women and why we are the fastest growing demographic in the outdoors. However, we don't stay in tune with the outdoors. We quickly leave. And that's because there's been this missing confidence piece. So our objective in all of our classes is to give women confidence to never have to hire us again. So I'm actively trying to put myself out of business, but I don't think that that's going to happen in my lifetime.
Huh.
And business is booming. The women are
Wow.
empowered. All the guides are empowered to set their own prices, and they get paid very well. From what I can tell, they get paid better than any other outfitter that I've come across because I tend to hire their women because they don't treat them right. And they're building their own brand using my platform. It's kind of like a plug and play, if you will.
Yeah.
And I help them create their brand, and I create a business plan for them because obviously that was my previous career that people had paid me thousands of dollars to do. And I just support them, which they weren't getting from a lot of fly shops and other outfitters. They weren't getting that support that they really needed. But our objective is for women to buy hunting and fishing licenses again the following year because we have put this confidence, this missing factor back into their equation. And then all of their license money goes back into conservation. And then I tell the guys that give us permits, I tell them like, hey, you might even get a raise. You give me a
Yeah,
permit
right.
because the other half of the demographic is going to be outside and recreating, and they're going to be confident enough to come back and welcome their kids.
Right.
So it just makes sense.
I bet all the sporting goods companies love you. You're getting the other half into the business.
I might be a little early, and from the contracts that I've seen from all the sporting good companies, they haven't figured out how to handle a businesswoman versus like an Instagram girl.
Ah, no
So
kidding.
we are not contracted or we are not a part of any other company. The girls are empowered to work with whatever sporting good company that supports them.
They've probably met their match in you. That'd be my guess.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about Indian Peaks, since that's kind of the star of the show today. So this is kind of right in your backyard. It's not far from Denver, as I said in my intro. But what in your mind makes Indian Peaks just such a unique and special place?
Sure. So Indian Peaks has a really rich history. I won't go into too much detail, but the Arapaho tribe originated there, and it was mainly their hunting grounds. And then back in the 60s, the president decided that they were going to take this other part next to Rocky Mountain National Park. They're going to take this other 70,000 acres and make it a part of Rocky Mountain National Park. Well, there was a lot of mining going on for different types of ores, so copper, silver, uranium, but it was poor quality ore. So in the 70s, Carter actually ended up keeping it out of Rocky Mountain National Park, but still claiming it as a wilderness area. So there's not a whole lot of commercial operations going on up there, if any, actually. I don't know of any. If they are, they've probably been grandfathered in from a long time ago.
Right. Yeah.
But it is pretty similar to Rocky Mountain National Park, except there's less cars, which is awesome.
Yeah.
In my personal opinion, there's a lot of water that is more easily accessed there. There's a lot more wildlife. I want to say that there's not a lot of elk, right? Because it's a hunting ground, but there's a ton of moose. So that can be a little
Really?
dangerous.
Huh.
The big difference that I see between Rocky Mountain National Park and Indian Peaks Wilderness is at Rocky, you're definitely going to see elk because they can't be hunted there, right?
Yeah. Right.
In Indian Peaks Wilderness, you're going to see just about everything else and probably not elk, but you're also not going to be just driving around in a car. There's a ton of hiking trails. There's over 50 high alpine lakes up there, and there's probably 100 different pieces of water just in that 73,000 acres that's been protected as wilderness area. So it's super cool. It's beautiful. At some places, you do need a reservation to access it, like the Brainerd area. There's Brainerd Lakes up there, and there's a ton of history around that. So you go on to recreation.org, buy your pass for the day, or show up after 5 o'clock. That's kind of what I do. That's my pro tip.
Is that right? We show up after 5 to, what do you
Yeah.
mean?
Show up after 5. There's not a pass requirement after 5 p.m. So,
All right, I got you.
yeah, show up after 5 and explore the area. But there's also the Moffat Tunnel. That's one of my favorite places. There's a giant parking lot right there, and there's miles of hiking trails and tons of different high alpine lakes. But if you're going to stay the night, you do need to buy a camping pass, which can be easily accessed online as well.
Okay.
So it's gorgeous, less cars, almost no elk, and it is popular, but you're not going to see as many people as Rocky.
Have you had any run-ins with moose up there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fortunately, safe run-ins, but I mean, it's really hard to get a moose tag here in the Front Range, and so we have a ton of them, and they're not scared. So there's it's really cool to see the big bulls out there with their velvet,
Sure.
and you just hope that they stay at a distance. And most of the time they do. It's the people that try and get, selfie with them or have their dogs off leash that end up running into trouble.
Oh man. So a dog, what will a dog do? Run back to you and bring the moose with it?
Most likely, yeah. I mean, they see a dog as like a coyote or a wolf, right? So
Yeah, stomp it.
yeah, totally. And that would be a bad day. I like having good days. I keep my
Right,
dogs on
exactly.
leash.
Oh my gosh. How close have you gotten to a moose?
Not close. I try and stay 100 yards, 150 yards away. Yeah, it's not hard to spot them if you're really paying attention.
Right.
When we're doing our guided trips out there, we guide just outside of Indian Peaks Wilderness, and there's still a ton of moose there. We have one guide looking way ahead and one guide looking, straight down to point out, hey, watch this rock, don't trip over it, or let's go through the mud puddle, don't go around the mud puddle, go through it. And then the other person's really looking for any lions, any moose, or any mama bears.
Huh, no kidding. So you guys got some bears and some mountain lions too up there.
Oh yeah,
Fun.
it's the
Yeah.
Rockies, so
Things that can hunt you back.
yeah. And the bears really aren't too scary. I hope that I never see a mountain lion, but they do exist out there. And yeah, just making sure everyone knows to stick together if they do see something and to not run and to be loud and waving your hands and screaming at the top of your lungs usually does a pretty good job of scaring anything away.
Right, right. Hey, anglers. You've heard me talking about Angler's Coffee for quite some time now. And I have a question for you. Have you tasted it yet? Well, if you have, then you know what I'm talking about. It's darn good coffee, isn't it? Hey, if you're like me, tasting's believing. And believe me, this coffee tastes great. My wife and I are hooked on it. Angler's Coffee offers an impressive spectrum of flavor profiles, so there's something for everyone. Like the Bass Head Smalley Blend, a medium roast coffee that really packs a punch, just like smallmouth bass on a 5-weight. They start with coffee beans from Africa and Central America, roasted to create a sweet and complex flavor with tasty notes of coffee cherries and sugarcane sweetness. Order some today and save 10% with a custom subscription like I did. You pick the coffee blends you want, and they're delivered right to your doorstep. And if you're not 100% satisfied, they'll give you your money back, no questions asked. No kidding. A percentage of each sale goes to some great nonprofit organizations in the fly fishing community. So put a smile on your face, just like I did, and give it a cast. That's Angler's Coffee. Tasting's believing. So give us a sense of the geography of Indian Peaks. I know it's a lot of it's above tree line, right? But
Hmm.
kind of what are the major sections that anglers should be thinking about?
So, to be real honest, Steve, you can fish just about any creek. The brook trout are everywhere. It is very mountainous. Like there is a definitely an elevation situation. You can't just come from sea level and go hike Indian Peaks the next day. We recommend people stay like in Longmont or Boulder, Golden, Denver area for
Yeah.
1 to 2 days to kind of become acclimated and ease up on the celebrating when you get here. Drink a lot of water, take your vitamins, and then meeting up at the trailhead, you're looking at least 1,000 foot elevation gain. You can get as steep as you want, or we use a lot of trails that are not too steep, like
Yeah.
around right outside of Indian Peaks, but it's still just as beautiful. But the Brainerd area is extremely popular. That's a trailhead that has very rigorous hikes all the way down to some pretty moderate hikes. But yeah, it's called Indian Peaks for a reason. And
Yeah.
there's a ton of wildlife up there. Yeah, like I said, over 50 stocked lakes. You're looking at cutbows, rainbow trout, not too many rainbows, but lots of cutthroat trout and brook trout.
Yeah. Very good. So I've kind of heard that Indian Peaks is kind of the more wild, remote cousin of Rocky Mountain National Park. And is it true there's no roads then that actually crisscross Indian Peaks? It's closed to automobiles, correct?
It is closed. And I think that's one of my favorite like situations about going there is because there's not a bunch of cars running around. You're not sitting in traffic looking at wildlife. You're actually in it.
Yeah.
You are on the trail. You have to be on the trail. And having a map is good because it is very big and some of the trails are well marked, but it is a wilderness area. So there's a lot of game trails out there too that you don't want to accidentally get on one of those and run into a moose and, herd den there.
Yeah.
So, and it's not like very crowded compared to Rocky Mountain National
Oh,
Park. So
really?
there might not be a group to follow.
Yeah, I'd actually read that it did get crowded, but your experience has been it's been not too bad, huh?
Not compared to Rocky Mountain National Park. It is a walk in the park.
No kidding. Well, that's good to know.
hmm
So is it possible to, kind of scope out lakes ahead of time? Like what kind of resources would you recommend for people to do that?
The best time to go do into Indian Peaks for some high alpine lakes is late July. So I don't even attempt to get up there until the near the end of July. August is also great. September is gorgeous because then the elk out there that you can't see
Yeah.
are bugling. The rut is on, so there's a lot of animals out and about. The leaves are changing colors, and because there is that pretty drastic elevation change, you're going to see golden aspens up there. But
Oh,
late
beautiful.
July is really the best time to go. There's not a report that I know of that you can see when the lakes are thawed out. And I kind of hang out in some of the Facebook groups that are around that area and follow the Instagram hashtag Indian Peaks Wilderness
Okay.
and
Good
kind of
tip.
go off of that. Because, yeah, it's wilderness. There's not like a park ranger. I mean, you could call the park rangers, but yeah, you can't call, like with Rocky Mountain National Park, you can call up and be like, hey, is Fern Lake fishing well? And they'll tell you because they have a bunch of people up there,
Right.
but
Right.
not in Indian Peaks.
They would know. Yeah. Okay.
Probably not.
Like if I'm trying to just figure out an itinerary, is there something, a resource online that tells me which of these 50 lakes actually has fish? Because some of them I'm guessing are fishless.
Yeah, there's actually a really amazing book by Steve Schweitzer called A Fly Fishing Guide to Colorado's Indian Peaks Wilderness Area. I absolutely love that. Him and a buddy put that together, and it will tell you the trail, what fish are in there, the time of year to really actually go up there,
Okay.
and then you can get a hiking pass through recreation.org as well.
Okay. I know what you're talking about. And then what do you kind of look for? Like what are your tips as I'm looking at, lakes and maps? Like what kind of, what are all the different things that you want to find in a really great alpine lake situation?
So I don't love to hike, not gonna lie. I'm not a great hiker.
Okay.
So I try and find a trailhead that's pretty far back there already, such as the Moffat Tunnel. And then I'll put up with a pretty big elevation gain if I don't have to go 5 miles.
Ah,
So
all right.
yeah, if it's not very steep, I'll do 5 miles, one way and then fish and 5 miles back.
That's a big hike with a lot of elevation gain. I mean, in a day, that's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And so at the Moffat Tunnel, it's not that bad because you're pretty far back there already. Like you've driven up a mountain already. So
Yeah.
that's a good spot to get started. And it's a popular tunnel. Whereas like if I'm going to go to, yeah, like really get some elevation in and I want to explore like, I think there's one on my list called Gold Lake or Ice Lake. I know that that's going to be an overnight trip, and I will be packing as a minimalist to get up there.
Yeah.
So that would require, they want to know that you're out there, right? So you need to get a camping permit, let the ranger know that you're going to be out there in case, you don't make it back
Something happens. Right.
because it's wilderness area.
So can I have a banner day without hiking 5 miles? It sounds like there are some trailheads that'll get me to a lake pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah. And then the streams that come out of them, absolutely. There are brook trout all over that place and cutthroat trout. And I really like fishing there because, sure, they're little and small. But if you don't know if you're going to run into like a little feisty brown trout or a little feisty cutthroat trout, like that's so cool. And throwing like just
Yeah.
big, ridiculous dry flies that they tackle in like a little creek is
Right.
awesome. That's a great day. You can hook up with as many fish as you want, really. It's a great place to take kids.
Huh. Yeah, right. Because you're getting lots of positive affirmation, right? If you're catching a lot of fish, your rig is working.
Absolutely.
All right. So talk about the permit system. So you do have to have a permit to go back in there, correct? Give us a little more on the permit system.
Yeah, so if you Google Indian Peaks Wilderness or Arapahoe National Forest, their websites will point you toward getting a permit for the day or a park pass. I guess you could call it a park pass, even though it's not a park, but a pass for the day. And it'll break it down from like you can be there, you can pull in between 8 and 10 o'clock or 10 and noon or noon and 1, all the way till 5. The permits end at 5, and then anybody can go in after 5 o'clock.
Huh.
So those resources will point you in the right direction. And if you're going to camp, like it has the links there to get a camping pass. And then it has all the rules and regulations like don't camp too close to the water.
Okay.
Pick up all of your dog poop, the pretty normal things. Leave no trace.
Right. Huge news, folks. The #1 fishing app, and I'm talking Trout Routes here, has been updated to include the entire lower 48. That's 50,000 streams mapped and classified into 4 categories and 350,000 hand-curated public access points marked and ready for you to explore. There's nothing more exciting than finding that new trout stream or access point. I'm a huge fan of Trout Routes because they make it so easy. Say goodbye to stumbling around country roads looking for your next spot, because Trout Routes provides every detail you need for each stream, including public and private bridges, stream flows, trail access, where to park, camping opportunities, boat ramps, and more. No service, no problem. You can save maps for offline use. With Trout Routes, I've found dozens of new streams and access points I never would have known about. So what are you waiting for? Sign up for Trout Routes today on your Apple or Android phone. Would you say that it's more of a numbers fishery than a size fishery when you get into those lakes? Have you caught some nice size cutthroat up there?
Oh, yeah. There are definitely some lakes that you don't have to hike to very far to catch really nice cutthroat. But the timing is everything, right? Like if you're there during the spawn, you just got to put your fly rod down and just enjoy seeing nature happen. And it sounds really creepy, but it is really cool because you see like the biggest fish in the lake come out, and I've never seen cutthroat that red and that fired up and that big in a lake. And like, it just is like, you sit there looking at them like, how did they survive the winter?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just super cool to see. But Colorado Parks and Wildlife does stock almost all of those lakes up there.
Oh, they do?
Mm-hmm. You can find the stocking reports by just typing in the name of the lake, and it'll tell you what they stocked it with, when they stocked it. They say that they stock golden trout in there. I've never seen one, and it's not really my mission to climb 4,000 feet to find a golden trout, but I am curious if they exist up there or not.
Right.
So, yeah.
And how are you seeing, cutthroat trout behaving up in these lakes as compared to some of the cutthroat you catch in rivers? Like what's kind of different in terms of your approach and whatnot?
I wish it was predictable.
Yeah.
They're obviously a little slower when right at ice off. So I will slowly strip a streamer rather than stripping one quickly. Because it's just too cold. They're not warmed up enough. Unfortunately, when you hit the spawn, you're up there just enjoying the view, I guess, and seeing these massive fish come up. But then after the spawn, they are extremely hungry, and there's no way to tell when the spawn is happening. It's all about the weather patterns. Like this year, it is definitely going to be later. So maybe late August, September is going to be the better fishing up there. And I'm ridiculous. I love to throw ants. Ants are everywhere. They're always in the fly shops, and I feel like no one really buys them. So I throw a lot of just really simple ants. Beetles, I throw a lot of moths because we have got this weird moth situation up here. Denver's got moths real bad. And anything with big, bushy, and with legs, I love. And then I'll hang a scud from that. or like a black beauty. But if I can get them on a streamer, I love just seeing them
No
later in the
kidding.
season. hmm
Okay. What's your favorite ant pattern?
Just a really simple black and red foam.
Black and red. What size?
Probably like 16, 14, because I want to be able to see it too. Like in our
Yeah.
fly fishing classes, I tell the ladies, don't buy flies you can't see because that's not going to get you where
Right.
you want to be. You'll just be frustrated.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I just got LASIK for duck hunting. So now I can see the flies a lot farther out. But yeah, I still kind of stay bigger. I know it's like Colorado's, very technical and you have to use these teeny tiny flies. But if you know where hungry fish are, you don't have to use teeny tiny flies.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. What about beetles? What's your favorite beetle pattern?
I don't have one. I'm still figuring that out. I'll throw any type of beetle that has like when I go to pick up the beetles, I look at the underside and I want to see a color, maybe like red, and I want to see the thread be wrapped around where it looks like segmentation. I don't care what the top of the fly looks like. As long as
Yeah.
I can see it, usually it's like some kind of shiny something.
Right.
But I want to see the segmentation because that's what the fish sees. I don't really care about all the
Exactly.
fanciness, on top of it.
There's a lot of fly patterns out there. They're designed to catch fishermen, not fish, in my opinion.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
I try not
like
to buy those.
think about like the bass bugs. Like for a largemouth bass, you got these poppers with these huge big eyes on top of the fly.
Right.
The fish is never going to see. But it makes you
Right.
feel good, I guess, when you fish it, right? So,
Exactly.
what about moth patterns? What kind of a moth is it?
I don't know the name of it. The one that I really like, it's got some like elk hair on the top. It's definitely segmented and tan, but it has red legs
Huh?
and red thread. And I have a theory, right? Because fish don't talk to us. I have a theory that just that slight amount of red kind of sets off the browns and the cutthroat to become a little bit more aggressive and eat it. Kind of like bass
Huh?
fishing, since I love bass fishing.
Yeah.
That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay. So you like a little red in your flies. Okay.
hmm
I've had good luck with, a little bit of purple in a fly too up in alpine lakes. Have you tried that?
Oh my gosh, that's my secret. It's out now
Uh-oh.
though.
Uh-oh.
I fish purple everything.
Okay.
I feel like my theory on purple is if we see in 3D, fish see in 4D. So that purple to them is like hot pink. And they're curious, right? Like, or that makes them angry and they come after it. So I've been fishing
Something.
purple, geez, for like 7 years. And
Huh.
on Ty, who's a professional fly tyer now, we went fishing and I I was catching all these fish on this big river in Wyoming, just from the bank, like not an ideal area. That's why I love Wyoming. And she's like, what are you doing? What are you using? Because I don't tie my own flies. And she's like obsessed, right? And
Yeah.
I showed it to her, and yeah, now she fishes a purple Duracell everywhere. But I
Okay.
feel like a lot of people do, which is great. Like they're catching more fish, which is it's awesome. That's how people
Yeah.
stay interested in fishing. So yeah, secret's out. I'm actually glad it's out,
There you
and
go.
I love fishing like little purple atoms up at
Yeah.
high alpine
Right.
lakes
Me
too.
too. I've had good luck
Mhm.
with those. Yeah.
Mhm.
What sizes do you like your atoms?
Probably on the smaller side, and then what I do is I will probably tie, I don't know, 2 feet of tippet to something that I can see really well. So like some kind of ridiculous hopper that I'll never fish any other time. But it gets the fish's attention, right? So they're looking at it, especially in some of these bigger high alpine lakes. You just need to get their attention.
Yeah.
So they come to check that out. They don't eat it, but then they see that little purple atoms and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's on." And so
Yeah.
that's what
I
I'll end up
agree.
hooking them up with.
My experience has been the same where a lot of times it's the combination of the two flies you have you have at the end of your line. Like one fly, like you said, gets their attention and they come up and eat the other fly. I've had that happen all the time.
Yep, I love that theory.
And, sometimes you see them cruising, right? And if you cast out there and just let it sit, they might go right by it. But if you just jiggle it just a little bit, boom, they just come charging right over. Have you had that happen?
Oh yeah. They're like, "Hey, what is that?" Like they just want
Yeah,
to see a little bit of movement. Yeah,
a little
totally.
bit. Yeah. Now, are you doing a lot of sight fishing in those alpine lakes?
Yes, but I'm so bad at it. Okay, I have zero
Yeah.
ego, right? So this was a couple years ago. I threw out this like black and red beetle, and the fish were spawning, so nothing was really happening. And there was probably 5 or 6 girls out there. We're in like this, like, I don't know, probably like this avalanche chute. It's kind of small, but we're all sitting there, and there's no snow. We all see this giant like fire engine red cutthroat come up for this
Oh, I
little
love that.
beetle, and we all start screaming, right? I rip it right out of its mouth.
Oh my
And
gosh. Yeah.
that was the highlight of the day. And then we hiked 5.5 miles all the way back to the trailhead.
But did you catch
But
some fish? You missed that one. Did you get
no,
some other ones? Oh, really?
we did not. But we
Tough
saw a ton of
day.
them because it was, yeah, yeah. But we saw a ton because they were spawning. So, and that, they're so beautiful just to be surrounded with, gosh, I don't even know how to describe the landscape besides that it's very striking. Like you are, if you throw a rock over the other side of the mountain, like you're on the Continental Divide. Like you're throwing a rock into Winter Park, you know?
Right.
So it's so cool to be up there, and there's so many different types of wildflowers and mushrooms up
I
there.
agree. Uh,
Um,
Folks, if you're listening and if you've not done alpine lakes, I really encourage you to figure out how to get up there. You have to be in shape, right? So there's an excuse to get out and do some walking and some running and some stretching and things. But man, it is so worth it. Erin, I totally get what you're
mhm,
saying. I'm addicted to it, honestly. I live in Indiana. I can't get out there as often as I'd like, but absolutely love that kind of fishing for exactly what you're talking about. You just look up and look around. You cannot believe where you are and what you're looking at.
mhm.
It's just that gorgeous. And man, if anyone's been to Central Colorado, it's spectacular for sure. All right. Well, tell me about the equipment that you're using. Like, what are you hauling up there? Let's say you're going in, you're going to do a couple of miles, maybe not 5, but a couple of miles. What's your standard, set of gear that you take up with you?
So because I've seen a lot of things happen, I am a minimalist. However, I am very well prepared. So I always bring my GPS device. Not the little Garmin InReach, but like an actual big GPS device, because things do happen up there, and it might not happen to you, but it might happen to somebody else. And unfortunately, our public lands don't pay our rangers very well, so there's very few of them.
Mm-hmm.
And having a fishing or hunting license is great because there's something about, I can't remember the exact legal stuff about it, but if you need to be flown out via helicopter, you're not charged a whole bunch of money because you have a fishing license.
Okay.
So I definitely would recommend a fishing license, a GPS device, a rain jacket, and a waterproof bag. I always have a first aid kit on me and a lighter, like an actual lighter. And I never wear yoga pants. It drives me insane. Maybe it's just me, but I cannot stand watching people hike in yoga pants, because if you rub up against the wrong kind of, thorn or tree, or God forbid you actually really get hurt out there and have to spend the night, those yoga pants become kindling. Like then you don't have any pants.
Kindling. What do you mean kindling? First, you're talking about the yoga pants. I'm thinking, okay, what's she talking about? Okay, I know what you're talking about. Yoga pants, the things that a lot of
Yeah.
women wearing, really tight silk things that
Oh
they have
gosh.
on. And what happens to
Yes.
them? They become kindling. What's that mean?
Yeah, like if you end up getting lost, which definitely happens, right?
Yeah, right.
If you end up getting lost, you need to create a fire, and everything out in Indian Peaks Wilderness is usually pretty wet or
Ah.
very green. They clean up the deadfall pretty easily. So, like, what are you burning? Probably your stupid yoga pants because you
Oh, is
didn't
that okay?
buy
All
the
right, I
correct
got you.
pants to wear hiking.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I always bring a second pair of shoelaces, because if you, and I have had this happen, if one of your shoelaces gets cut, like then you're hiking down with one shoe.
Yeah,
So
right.
those are kind of
Okay.
like go-tos. Obviously I have a knife. I definitely bring my pistol just because you don't know what's going on out there. An air horn is great. Bear spray is great. But
Okay.
yeah, definitely minimal things, but things that, you know, if you get stuck out there, what are you really going to wish you had?
Yeah. The GPS thing that you're carrying, is that a communication device, or is it just really more of a map for you?
Both.
Okay.
It is definitely both. I use Onyx Hunt maps to, like, I'll download the map of Indian Peaks where I'm hiking that day. I'll download that to my phone. But if your phone dies, then what? So I bring that GPS device as well, and I try not to turn them on too much, but it is definitely on for a reason. So.
All right. What about, waders and fly rods and things like that? Are you bothering with waders? You wear wading boots? What do you have on your feet when you're
I am
fishing?
not bringing waders.
Okay.
Nope, definitely not. I have seen people do it, and it's probably something they end up regretting, but I don't bring waders. I do sometimes bring my wading boots and some wading socks, especially
Yeah.
if I know I'm going to be out there a couple of days. It's just nice to change into dry shoes afterwards.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, a good pair of hiking boots that you've sprayed with waterproofing spray is great. And tall socks. And I'm kind of weird. I like to bring a second pair of socks because I want to switch them out if I'm
Oh, yeah.
hiking 10
Oh, that's
miles.
great.
So, yeah, just something to feel better.
You talking about those neoprene wading socks that kind of keep your feet warm too?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, those are great. I bought a pair of those a couple of years ago, man, and that's like night and day when you're wet
Yep.
wading, and you got those
And
things on you.
they don't weigh a whole lot, so you
Yeah.
can easily pack them in.
And do you have a wading boot you like that's kind of lightweight?
I don't have a favorite. I've kind of been bouncing back and forth trying to find like my ideal situation. I'm just not sure it totally exists yet. Maybe when more
Okay.
people want to really spend a lot of money on high alpine fishing, they'll create a really light boot because a lot of
Yeah, I'd
companies
love
say that
that.
they do right now, and then you put it on and you're like, really?
It's
These
not
way
that
more than
light.
my hiking shoes.
Yeah,
Yes.
right? I agree. I wish they'd make something like that because your wading boots are like the heaviest thing you're carrying up there, So sometimes I just wear a pair of Tevas and just kind of bite the bullet. And if you're wading in some shallow water, by the afternoon in the summer, sometimes that shallow water warms up a little bit. It's not too bad.
Yeah. And especially since a lot of what's in Indian Peaks, you don't actually have to get into the water because then the fish will see you. The banks are pretty well cut from glaciers and runoff and things like that. So you really don't have to get into the water.
Oh, okay.
But I spend a lot of time in my Zero shoes, which is a local company out of Boulder. Being a minimalist and a climate advocate, every pair of shoes that has ever been made is still on this planet. So with the Zero shoes, they're a lot thinner, but they do make a hiking boot. But your feet have to be very strong in order to take on a hike like that with a thin sole.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
totally sure. After 15 years of wearing high heels and cowboy boots with a heel, I'm not totally sure my foot health is where it needs to be.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a
Right.
little intimidating.
Feet can get sore if you have, thin soles. I've found that the hard way,
Mm-hmm.
So so you talked about the lakes being like not a lot of shallow areas. So are these lakes usually all like pressed up against, some cliffs or some very steep areas? And are you just sort of scrambling around on the rocks around the edge? And is that what's going on?
Yeah, there's usually when you pull up, there's kind of a bank situation, but then it looks like a crater, right?
Yeah.
Like that was pulled out of the side of a mountain. It's like a cavern. It's a deep, bright blue hole. I don't even know how
Yeah,
Mother
full of
Nature did
fish.
that.
Yeah.
Full of fish that they drop in via airplane. So
Okay.
it's super cool. But yeah, it is. Most of the time you can't access the other side of the lake because it is a mountain.
Yeah, you can't get over there.
Yeah, it's dangerous, and you're looking at standing in a boulder field. And I feel like a lot of Americans, since we have a lot of these awesome national parks that are safe for us to recreate in, when you're out in wilderness and you see a boulder field, just know that those can move,
Yeah.
compared
Oh, yeah.
to at a national park, they pretty much kid proof a lot of stuff that's easily accessible.
Yeah. I have sat on boulders the size of like, your garage and had them move underneath me. And that's
Mm-hmm.
not a good feeling. And they make a lot
That
of
is
noise when they
terrifying.
move, right? There's a mountain
Yeah,
in the
that's
San Juans.
terrifying.
It is. There's a mountain in the San Juans down near Durango called Engineer Mountain. I remember as a kid being out there and someone said, I wonder why they call it Engineer Mountain. And then that evening, when it's really calm, we started hearing boulders rolling down the side of that mountain. And it sounded like trains going over a track, that
Wow.
clinking sound, And we looked at each
Hmm.
other and thought, those are gigantic boulders moving on the side of that mountain. It was really cool.
Yeah, being prepared and knowing that that can happen is really the reason you want to hire a guide.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good point. Yeah, don't go over there. Those boulders move over there.
Yeah.
So what about what kind of a fly rod, like what weight fly rod are you bringing up? What kinds of tippets and leaders and things like that?
So when I go up there, I'm usually going up there with on. I've got a whole bunch of 5 weights, so that's kind of what I'm rolling with. It's not necessary. She loves to fish her 3-weight bamboo rod with 6X tippet.
Really?
I can't see
Wow.
6X tippet. I am more about the I'm more about this, and she uses 7X too. I'm more
Well, do you
about the
need that?
strategy.
Right.
I haven't. Like, we will catch an equal amount of fish because her strength is being able to tie on the smallest little flies with the Davy knot and that 6 and 7X, and that's her technique. My
Okay.
technique is I'm throwing a fly I can see. My go-to is 3X. I'm not fishing 3X way up there, but I do love fishing 3X in lakes. And I don't own 6 and 7X. I can't
There
see
you
it,
go.
so I'm not going to catch the fish anyways. But I
Yeah.
will stand back. I feel like this is something that so many brand new anglers aren't told to do. I will stand back and kind of watch what's happening for a good 10 or 15 minutes. I don't care if somebody comes up
Love
and
it.
takes my spot. Go ahead, take the spot. I don't care. I will sit up there and just kind of watch what's happening. And then after I see some rises or some cruisers in an area that I feel safe accessing, that's where I'm going. Like,
I
I
love
will
it.
go where I see the fish are moving and they're hungry. And it's usually not the spot that you immediately walk up to and like throw a
Right.
line in. Most of the time, the new anglers, they're scaring fish right off the bank.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm looking for a spot that, since I love to throw streamers way out there, I'm looking for a spot that I can double haul and rip the streamer like along the bank, not to the
Sure.
middle of the lake, but like along the bank, maybe where there's still some like glacial ice melt coming into the lake. So then that you've got that temperature change too. They're not necessarily feeding right there if you're, up at 12 and 13,000 feet, but you see some action over there, and that's not
Right.
boring.
So you're throwing streamers are kind of your go-to then at these alpine lakes?
Yeah, especially after the
Huh.
spawn, that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm using black streamers or little woolly buggers or little black leeches. Purple's also good, or maybe some black and white that are, has a little bit of red in there, so it looks like, one of the minnows or the bait fish is, dying. But I'll throw those kind of near the waterfalls and things like that, just to get that temperature change. And there's usually action around it. Even if I see a fish up there, like, I'm happy.
Okay. What about structure? Are you looking for some kind of structure?
Yeah, but usually the crowds are at the structure,
Okay.
and there'll be a lot of spawning trout near the structure too. However, if it is like kind of a beachy area, then like a drop off, I will double haul that fly out to the drop off, like just so as they're cruising around, and if they happen to look up, they see it.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
been
with you.
very productive as well. Super cool.
Yeah. I've had great luck fishing, like a flat area that just drops off. Boom. Those fish are going to be right
Hmm.
on the edge of that for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so 3X is your go-to. You do a lot of streamer fishing. What's your favorite streamer pattern up there? Or you mentioned a couple of them, but like, are these woolly buggers or?
Yeah. I'm not sure I have a favorite. I feel like it's more about, this is where all the fly tires like are like, what? How can you not have a favorite? I feel like it's more important to know how they want the streamer presented to them, like how quickly or slowly to
Yeah.
pull it into them. I think that's more important than, like the exact size or anything like that of the fly. just in the right spot, right time of year, and how they want it to be moving, I feel like is more important. But I'll do green. I'll do like a dark green, like a forest green, or like a burnt orange. Don't throw too many white ones anymore. Maybe I don't know why. Maybe I just got bored of fishing white ones.
Uh-huh.
But they can see those black leeches deeper. So I do like that. And when I get sick of, hauling around and casting streamers way out there, I just put a bobber on and jig it just like I would for bass.
Really? Okay.
And it's usually pretty windy up there. So like the waves are moving that bobber up and down.
Sure.
And if I've got, I don't know, like a big gnarly, stupid looking pheasant tail, but it's heavy down to a little black leech, maybe like a balanced black leech, that is usually dynamite as well.
Huh, no kidding. What size pheasant tails?
I don't know. It doesn't matter because I'm usually
Doesn't
just using
matter.
it to get the,
Like 14, 16s?
yeah, I'm just using it to get the balanced leech down. And I don't want to be double hauling, an indicator, weight of the and two flies. That's shenanigans
Right.
of the wrong kind.
No, I got
So
you.
just something heavy and natural looking or something to get their attention.
Oh, that's awesome. Would you mind sending me some pictures of some of these fly patterns you're using?
Sure.
Yeah, I'd love to post those. People love that stuff. It's really helpful. Oh, that's cool. Well, hey, let's shift gears for a second. And I wanted to hear more about your business, Uncharted Outdoorswomen. And I'm curious, what kind of hurdles, did you run into as you tried to get that started? Were people cheering you on, or did you run into some roadblocks?
I feel like I run into a lot of roadblocks, but there are a lot of people cheering us on. To be really clear, like we need gentlemen to welcome us into the outdoors. Without gentlemen who are already welcome, we will never get there. So there's been a lot of gentlemen that we've run into that have helped open doors for, licensing and permits, and they understand what we're trying to do and they support it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of dudes out there that are very much against us. They don't want people of color out there. They don't want a woman to shoot that big bull elk before, they get out there to their hunting spot because they've been there for 20 or 30 years.
Huh.
We have a lot of outfitters try and turn us in for not having an outfitter's license because there's a lot of women's groups that have come before us, I've found, that have kind of created this distrust in the outdoor industry because they didn't have all the puzzle pieces put together correctly. Like something was missing, and it seems to be like a lot of there was not enough research done to actually get outfitters license and permits. So when the forest ranger comes to meet us to check our permit, we've gotten to know our forest rangers really well as the outfitters and
Smart.
fly shops
Yeah.
turn us in. We've gotten to know them really well, and now they know that it is at least a 30-minute photo session with all these women.
Oh, is that right? What? Oh, really?
Yes.
They're so surprised to see you guys out there. Is that what it is? Or
Yeah, we're not hard to find, right? Like our GPS location of where we're meeting is most likely on our webpage.
okay.
And then like we try and meet at a big safe space like a marina or trailhead, something like that.
Yeah.
So the rangers meet us there, at the time of the event. And we are always good to go because I am super legal and make sure all the girls are protected. I also employ all of them.
Yeah, that's unique too in the outfitting business, isn't it? I mean, that you actually have employees.
Actually, no. The permits that we have require employment.
Oh, they do? Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
And I
didn't know
have
that.
a theory behind that. I feel like, so a normal guide is what, 23? Probably,
There you
23-year-old
go.
person.
Yeah, maybe.
That person probably doesn't have insurance. However, a company does.
Sure.
So if that person, the 23-year-old person here, is covered by employment, then if something happens to their client or something like that, and there becomes a lawsuit, I feel like the National Forest or the BLM or state wildlife areas, they want somebody or like a business to sue, not a 23-year-old person.
Yeah.
And maybe that is why they have started requiring that. And in 2020, I believe, is when that law really changed. And maybe it's just, no, because I think some of our other permits in other states require employment too. Regardless, I want to protect all of our guides. I never want them to get in any trouble, and every outfitter should be like that. As women, we know something could potentially happen out there. And so, yeah, we employ everybody, and I have accident insurance and 3 times the state requirements for outfitters insurance.
Yeah.
And I feel good about that. I don't mind overpaying for insurance. I'd rather be insured. I sleep at night.
Right. No kidding. That's, yeah. All right. So talk about your company and what you guys are offering, because it's more than just guiding, right? You're doing educational classes, events, retreats, that kind of thing.
Yeah, we're definitely creating disruption for traditional guiding. So in the fly fishing realm, what we found is women don't want to be out there at 7 a.m. They got kids to get to school. They have lunches to make. 7 a.m. is not an option, but 1 in the afternoon is an option. And our objectives when hiring a fly fishing guide are usually totally different. When I hired a fly fishing guide, I wanted to know how I could never hire that person again. I wanted to know why he was tying on the bugs he was tying on. I wanted to learn what knots he was using, how to
Teach
set
me.
up the nymph rig. Yes, I didn't care about catching 10 fish. I still don't. I'm at this point, I'm like a one and done. But I was getting started, 3 or 4 were great. But I
Yeah.
really wanted to know how I could do it independently and go on camping trips with other people and learn. Like, I would be just as successful as them because they grew up doing it mostly because they're male. So I wanted to be successful at it and be just as good and not have my buddies yell at me because I couldn't catch a fish or cast a rod. So
Huh.
we have kind of turned into less traditional guiding and more of classes. And in the classes, people are drawn to those because they're meeting other people like them. So, hey, I'm new to fly fishing. You're new to fly fishing too. Cool. I have kids. You have kids too. Great. Let's get all of our kids together, take them camping. And, they've made a new friend to go adventure with, and they have the same interest. They can get their kids out there, go play in the water together
Yeah.
rather than trying to always reinvent the wheel or put them in front of a TV. So our fly fishing classes, we teach like 101, 201, like how to fish rivers along the Front Range. And then we're venturing into the retreats, like fly fishing retreats this year, seeing how those are popular. And dang, they are popular. But they take a lot of work. Like they take a team
I'll
of
bet.
women to put everything together.
Yeah. I put on retreats.
Yeah, we have the best clients. Like they always come prepared. They're on time, if not 30 minutes early.
Huh.
They love good food. They want a healthy lifestyle. They understand the connection between Mother Nature and your mental health, and they want to learn something new. So that's great. Like that is who we want, because if we can give them the confidence that they can catch fish on their own camping trip, they'll buy that fishing license again the next year.
Yeah. That's cool. So I was reading on your website that you offer trail running, paddleboarding, medicinal plants. Then this one, forest bathing. What is that?
Yeah, that's a really popular practice over in Asian cultures about how, well, there's a whole bunch of science you can read about it. But Maddie, who's actually a vegetarian, she's on our team. She is a certified therapist, and she works with Mother Nature in her therapy. She's one of like 4 registered and licensed outdoor therapists. So she'll take like kids rock climbing. So her therapy is all about getting them outside. And there's just that scientific research that goes to walking on a trail and seeing trees and seeing water and what it does for your mental health, which we can't measure.
Yeah.
So we take girls on big game camps, fly fishing, obviously a ton of fly fishing. We're doing big game scouting camps. We do shed hunts. We do cattle herding, deer hunts, elk hunts, bear hunts, waterfowl camps, obviously.
Huh.
We do it all. Everything that the guys are doing, we're doing it.
That's awesome. Very good. Is it always women who are your customers, or do you have some men that come through?
No, we actually have a lot of gentlemen that sign up to take our classes as well. And a lot of people from the LGBTQ community that don't identify as either, but it's the safest place that they can find because of how open-minded we are to get outside, and we're not going to judge them. Yeah, we're just about creating a safe space. And actually, a lot of Fortune 100 companies hire us for their like employees day out,
Really?
because we don't have, usually their executive committee is all men, all white men. And we don't have
This is
like
true.
we've been told that we don't have like this ego battle between two male people, like the guide and the client, if they're both male. Usually we have like a woman, a female guide, and a male client, and they kind of let their guard down a little bit.
Oh,
And like,
interesting.
how do I hold this fish? Where do I take my wife when I bring her back here? Is my kid going to be able to handle the hike back in here? You know, and they keep coming back and they bring their families, and most of the time they just want a really good picture of them in the outdoors.
Huh. What are you looking for in a guide? Somebody that works for you?
That is what I've been trying to nail down. I
Ah,
never thought this business was going to be this wildly successful.
wow. Good for you.
Yeah. So I have found that I definitely need women that are very confident, not only in fly fishing, but also in outdoor recreation. And I've kind of gone more of the hunting direction because the hunters, they show up on time, they're very strategic about what they do, they're checking weather conditions, and the event goes on. Like they're not going to not go fill their deer tag if it's snowing, right?
Yeah.
They're going to be out there. They got 4 days to get it done. So I've kind of ventured more towards the hunting mentality. Not saying that I won't hire a fly fishing guide that, is responsible, shows up on time, and wants to take people out, but it just seems to be like the girls that are dialed into the hunting mentality have been more reliable. So I've kind of started to go that direction, but we're really looking for women that want to be paid for their time and effort. Like they're burnt out from doing free classes for the nonprofits like I was. They've been
Huh.
discriminated against in the fly shops because maybe they were one of the top guides at the fly shops. Now they're at the bottom of the guide hierarchy because they had a baby and they can't get a babysitter,
Huh.
within 12 hours, to guide the next morning. So we take on those women, and you can book those guides just like you book a hairdresser appointment. We have a guide calendar. You go in there, pick what day you want, and you can see the services. And I empower these women to know their worth and how much they need to make per hour. And so they set their own guide prices. If I see that they're too low, I'll say something, and we try to be more expensive than the outfitters and fly shops around us because we don't want them to think that we're taking their business. We want to do this business right, and these girls, they're working really hard.
Yeah.
So knowing their self-worth, and I'm really looking for girls that have the passion because I feel like there are a lot of great anglers out there that could definitely be guides, but if they're not passionate enough to show up for that one girl that has signed up for their event, maybe, like they have to have that. I was very fortunate to be in a fly fishing class almost 10 years ago that April Archer did, who owns Sarabella. She's like a woman-owned fly rod company.
Okay.
I was one of the only people to show up, and now look at me. So I'm like, no, if you have one client show up, then you need to do the class. And sometimes I'm missing that passion from women, and maybe because
Okay.
it seems to be from a lot of gals that maybe they grew up fly fishing, so they haven't felt the discrimination that me and most of the girls on our team have felt. Like it's just a different feeling.
That's a real thing, isn't it, Erin? I mean, what you're talking about, the feeling, discriminated or people looking down their noses at you guys, that's like a real thing for you, isn't it? That's happened.
Yeah, our business is very misunderstood. Like when I turn in those permit applications, I get a lot of funny looks, and we get declined a lot because people are like, why do you want to bring 12 people out here when your guide isn't going to be able to put 12 people on fish? I'm like, that's not our objective. We're showing them like how to camp, how to backpack, how to be safe in the outdoors, and how to fly fish. In the national forest, some of them are like, nope, we need money because the national forest wants you to fill 180 days, which obviously being a small business, we can't do.
180. Wow.
180 days. They want the money. They want the money. They want to know your prices. And we do have
Huh.
high prices. I still think that they're very fair, and the girls do too, if not too low. And our clients, I mean, we served over a
And you're
thousand
filling
women
them.
last year.
Oh, wow.
So our prices, I feel like, are great. But yeah, the Forest Service is just not. They don't quite understand what we're doing. But when a woman answers the phone, she gets it.
Oh,
And that's
really?
ultimately who ends up pushing our permit through.
I want to ask you about this passion thing that you're talking about. Like, I know so few women that fly fish, right? And like my wife has zero interest in any of this, right? She's just not an outdoors woman. And, I've invited her to come with me. She's just not interested, and that's fine. But are you finding that there are a lot of women who, if they were just exposed to this, that they would get into it?
Definitely. I am betting my business on it. I am betting my career on it. I'm betting every dollar I have on it. Business is out of control. As soon as you expose a woman to the outdoors in the proper way, which I
Yeah.
don't know how to describe that really, but if she's going out there with another woman that loves the outdoors, something is going to click.
Yeah.
There's just something out there. We see a lot of gals from the Midwest move to Colorado and they're in. Like they're back in. They've been looking for us. Is what we've been told. And then you can read in our Google reviews, a lot of the gals say that we make things very approachable. So we're taking out the pretentiousness that fly fishing brings with it, right? And then
Yeah.
breaking down those barriers. Like if you want to go hunting, it can actually be very affordable. If you want to go fly fishing, it can be very affordable. We have blogs about what you actually need on our website. It doesn't have to break the bank, but it is a hobby, you know?
Right.
But
Right.
a lot of gals, they get up here, they start hiking, but they're missing like, oh, that was an area like where a moose bedded down, or you can see the rubbings on the trees, or where the conifers meet the pines. You can tell that's a great place to look for elk sign. So when they're out there, just having like even our vegetarian, the hunting guides and the vegetarian guides will go out together because she knows all about plants and where they like to live, and the hunting guide knows where the animals are and where they like to live. So it's a really cool experience when you go out there and you learn all these things, and then the next time you go out hiking, you're telling your friends about 5
Yeah.
plants, and they're like, their mind is blown.
You might have cracked the code. I feel like so many companies are trying to figure out how to get this other half of the population involved in these sports, right? And it sounds like you've
Hmm.
sort of cracked the code in some ways.
Yeah, and it was super easy. I hired a woman, I empowered her, I let her set her own price, and I pay her very well. And
Yeah.
then I just multiplied that by 30,
Right.
and business is great. I just
And
need grant
bingo.
money. But because I'm not a nonprofit, like we are a for profit, women deserve a
Nothing
career in
wrong
the
with that,
outdoors.
right?
Yeah. And we're trying to decrease that wage gap that we know exists, but there's no research on, but we know it exists because we feel it. I mean, it exists in the common
In the
job world.
business.
So,
Oh,
of
yeah.
course,
It exists.
yeah.
Yeah. But not in
And
your industry.
so,
Yeah.
yeah. And so I'm trying to kind of, yeah, start that movement. And we don't see anybody as competition. It is a movement. Even gentlemen outfitters, they see it too. And I'm like, if you don't pay your guide more and empower her and listen to her and run with her ideas, then I will. And you lose your best person. So
Oh, interesting.
the choice is easy.
Right. Have you had some mentors along the way? Like who's sort of kind of encouraged you personally?
Yeah, my grandma was definitely pivotal in getting me into the outdoors. Finding a mentor is really hard, if not absolutely impossible. There's more people that have promised to take me hunting than I have fingers and toes, and
Yeah.
left me, at the trailhead in the parking lot,
What?
never called me the night before,
Seriously?
taking my money for a guided trip. Oh yeah, taking my money for a guided trip and then never took me. Yeah, nonprofits, the Becoming an Outdoorsman program, like they have all failed me and almost everyone I employ.
Huh.
So there was my market, and we love mentoring people.
So you're a mentor. Like you're a mentor, if I feel like more
Yes.
than people have mentored you, you're mentoring other people.
Yeah, it is now my passion. So I bring on one mentee every year, and she's getting everything for free. And if she doesn't pull the trigger, like it's her hunt. I don't care. It's totally cool. But I'm going to make sure she's the most prepared that she can be, and that it's an ethical harvest. because that's really what I was looking for. Like, I needed to be told that I needed a compact, like, youth 243 rifle for what I was going for. But when I would talk to people about what kind of gun should I buy, oh my gosh, it was like I had no idea what all these numbers were.
Right. At first you don't.
Yeah, knowing that I'm a little tiny person and I'm going to be carrying that gun for a lot of miles, like I needed something small and I needed to be really good at shooting it. I needed to not be afraid of it. So, and shotguns need to fit women, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
most of my duck hunts, no one shoots anything because they have grandpa's gun, dad's gun, brother's gun, boyfriend's gun. They can't find a gun that fits them, and so we're really looking for a sporting good company that wants to host a women's shotgun fitting. Like, they're going
Huh.
to make money, right?
Yeah.
But they're like, well, I don't know, we gotta pay people to keep the store open so these girls can try on, shotguns. And I'm like, I don't know, probably worth it because my clients are attorneys, doctors, therapists, chiropractors. Like, they have money.
They might buy something.
Yes, they might buy a $2,000 shotgun that I am shooting because they're like, oh yeah, this does fit me really well. So it's definitely definitely a good thing to work with us because we don't sell a physical thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And you said earlier on that your husband doesn't do any of this stuff. Is that right?
Nope, I had no one to ask. No, we kind
Yeah.
of grew up in my first hunting experiences were all really bad. Yeah, I was in my 20s. I was in the agriculture school, so my degree was in animal science, and shooting deer from trucks was what I thought hunting was. That is not
I was
what it
going to say,
is.
where did you learn that? That's what deer
Yeah,
hunting was.
and that's what I was exposed to, and
Is that
that's
like
what a lot
Texas?
of people in Missouri.
Oh, okay.
Well, in Texas, I think that's legal.
Is it? Okay. I don't know. I have no
I don't
idea.
know. I don't have an outfitter's license in Texas. They might. Well, they barely even have public land. So, but that's a
Yeah.
whole nother conversation. But
Yeah.
they're brought into the outdoors world, seeing terrible things like that happen, and then you're like, why would I want to hurt a deer rather than seeing the facts that if we didn't hunt deer every year and gently tuck them into our freezers, that we'd be hitting them on the highways.
Right.
There'd be, what is it, the 214% more deer if we skipped a season or two, I think is what the research said
It
from
double. Is that right? Okay.
yeah, from a university. So yeah, just introducing women and other unlikelies into the outdoors
There you
correctly,
go.
which we can't really describe. We just do it, and showing them like a great time and that you don't have to pull the trigger if you're feeling uncomfortable. Or a lot of clients we face, 1 in 4 women have been a victim of domestic violence, and the last time they saw a gun, it was pointed at them.
Oh my
And here
gosh.
we are gently handing them shotguns to use so they can harvest their own animals. We handle a lot of vegetarian shotguns to harvest their first animals.
Is that right?
And that's pivotal. Like, that changes things. This is a movement. It's other guide services. They're like, yep, you're going to catch 10 fish today. Like, that's stupid. That is the worst mission statement I have ever heard.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have definitely a different passion and a different eye for what the future is going to bring, because
Yeah. Super
eventually
cool.
there's not even going to be 10 fish in the river,
Can you think of some women that have been through, I'll call it your program, or been on one of your retreats or done your events that you've stayed in touch with? And has it changed some people's lives?
Definitely. We just hosted a happy hour last night, and we have a lot of repeat clientele. We hosted a happy hour last night. A bunch of them came, and just hearing the gals that keep coming back, learning more new outdoor skills, finding new friends with similar interests, hearing them talk about how life-changing it has been for them, and how through COVID, they didn't just like stay in their apartment. They went out with us and explored and got out of their comfort zone a little bit. And now they're addicted to the outdoors, which is
Huh.
our objective.
That's awesome.
Hearing them talk about that and how confident they are, and hearing about their hunting plans for this next coming season has been really cool.
Yeah. Gratifying, I'm sure.
Yeah, we get a lot of tags on our Instagram from gals that took one of our classes, and then they go out together, go fishing together and catch maybe nothing, but maybe something. But they had a great time, and they're still friends a year later.
Oh, neat. Yeah,
There's been a lot of that.
that's great. Okay, I want to shift gears just for a second, but I want to ask you, just conservation wise, what are you seeing there in Colorado? Like how, like how's Indian Peaks doing? What kinds of things are you seeing out there that we should be concerned about?
Sure. So normally I would say wildfire, because our forest wants to burn because of the pine beetle kill. That we just keep cleaning it up, right? But the forest really does want to burn. And arborists all over our state say that. Now we have all this moisture, so we've got burn areas and mudslides. And if you Google the Colorado River and water rights, like Wall Street is all over that. It is the Colorado River is having a moment, and it's a main vein right here
For sure.
in Colorado. But between that, we're seeing a lot of pine beetle kill up in the Indian Peaks wilderness, and that's because our springs tend to be a little bit warmer than they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So the pine beetles are reproducing more frequently.
They're thriving.
Yes, and there's a bunch of research online about the pine beetles as well. They are, since the climate is warmer, they have more time to reproduce. And so those babies are digging holes, and the females are digging holes into these tree trunks that we desperately need. We desperately need trees, and they bring a fungus with them too, which is how the babies thrive. And then they're out earlier in spring than normal, and then they're reproducing more and more. So I live at 9,000 feet. We've never had any type of beetle kill situation, and now the county is aggressively handing out hormone packs to staple to our ponderosas to save them.
Huh.
We're in trouble with the pine beetle kill, and if we didn't get all this rain, we'd be in quite the situation.
Yeah.
And there's not like in the Midwest, there's like a tornado alarm, right?
Right.
Like you hear the
Yeah.
alarm, to go to your basement. When we first moved here from Missouri, there was a wildfire like it was over a mile from us, but we could smell it, right? You can smell it from miles away. But this one was really close. And I'm like, why isn't there an emergency alert system of like
Yeah.
a tornado siren that goes off because there's a wildfire? And it's simply, combination between we've been in a historic drought, right? So that the drought, the pine beetles killing our trees, and then lightning is a great recipe for a wildfire. And, we live up here. We're in the way.
Yeah. At 9,000 feet, man, you're way the heck up there too.
I know.
I
Yeah.
mean, can't imagine what your winters are like up there.
Yeah. They're not too bad. This winter was brutal, but
Was it? Okay. All right. So just in closing, Erin, I want to ask you, give us one thing you want people to know about these women that are getting into the outdoors.
the one thing is that they need confidence. They need confidence, education. They don't need to be told what to do, and never assume, that they don't know what you're talking about, because a lot of them do. A lot more ladies are building that key missing factor, that confidence factor, and they're taking time to Google conservation laws. So when they vote, they have a more confident answer rather than marking like, yes, we need Mexican wolves in Colorado. They,
For instance.
yeah, just as one simple example that is just going to destroy us. But anyways, in our massive elk population, and not to mention the cows. But anyways, giving these women confidence and not tearing them down when they're doing something quote unquote wrong, as they reel a fish in with whatever fly you said didn't work. Don't say anything, man. Just let them have fun out there. It doesn't need to be pretentious. It doesn't need to be expensive. Women teach their kids how to do this, no matter if they're male or female. They're teaching their kids because they love them. And the more women we get into conservation and understand it and have that missing confidence piece, and they feel safe and they feel welcome, they'll keep coming back. They'll keep buying fishing and hunting licenses. Their kids will too. And all that money goes back into our conservation efforts.
Yeah, I love it. Well said. Very good. What's your favorite place for the hungry, thirsty angler at the end of, say, a day or a couple days in Indian Peaks? Or maybe as I'm heading in, what kinds of local places do you like?
I really love coming out of the Moffat Tunnel, and there's a little locally owned brewery that also has tea, coffee, and kombucha. I think they just started serving food. It's a woman-owned, like it's just like one of those garages, you lift up the glass garage door,
Yeah,
and she's
right.
got local art in there, and that has
Cool.
just been a great spot. And
Where's that
I
now?
hope that she stays in business. It's in Rollinsville, which is a
Rollinsville.
little mining town right outside. Actually, it's I guess on the border of Indian Peaks Wilderness.
Okay.
Can't miss it.
Okay. What's it called?
What is it called? Something about wind. The Howling Wind Brewery,
Okay.
maybe?
All right. It's a brewery. Okay. Gotcha. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Erin. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. You did an awesome job.
Thank you so much, Steve. It was fun.
Yeah, for sure. How can people get in touch with you and check out your business?
Online is unchartedoutdoorswomen.com, unchartedoutdoorswomen.com. And Colorado Women on the Fly is one of our Instagrams. Uncharted_outdoorswomen is our other Instagram. We are on Facebook, and there's multiple Facebook groups too. If you're a gentleman and you would love to get your ladies in your life out to the outdoors, you can simply type their email address or your email address into our website, and they will start receiving updates. Because we don't let any gentlemen in our Facebook groups to protect our safety.
Okay. Makes sense. All right. Well, there you go, folks. Get in touch with Erin if you got some questions or if you want to look into her events and trips. Erin, I wish you extraordinary success in all your adventures to follow, folks. And thank you so much for listening to another episode of The Destination Angler. Be sure to check out our Facebook and Instagram pages for pictures of Erin's top fly picks and all the gorgeous scenery up in the Indian Peaks Wilderness area. You can DM me or email me with comments and suggestions at shaig50@gmail.com. And hey, if you like the show, please share it with a buddy. As always, our music is by our Brothers Fountain, a great little band out of Fort Collins, Colorado. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you again soon. Tight lines, everyone.
Well, I'll go from the land to the shining sea. But I know there's more to life than what the eye can see.